For the past several years, residents and community agencies in Jamaica Plain have been reinventing the Hyde Square-Jackson Square corridor as the Latin Quarter. The area has long been a hub for part of Boston's Latinx community, but the project serves a combination of goals encompassing economic and cultural revival, but also preservation. The story is told in a documentary film recently premiered and directed by our guest. We'd like to welcome the founder and owner of the Boom House, Monica Cohen. Thank you very much for being with us, Monica.
Thank you, Chris.
Well, I want to start with your introduction to this neighborhood around Hyde Square, the Latin Quarter. How did your arrival there take you to the idea for this film?
Well, I started meeting some of the neighbors and organizations in the neighborhood that I had been living for the past 2 years, now 3 years. And I was very moved by the connection people had to this neighborhood and this space. That the space that I was living in had a lot of history, but there were probably a lot of mental boundaries. People from one side of Jamaica Plain had no idea what the Latin Quarter or the Latinx community was all about on the other side of Center Street. So it really got me interested in crossing that boundary and getting to know the people on the other side too.
How did it feel for you though? Because you came here from another country, this is America, you're supposed to assimilate and be like the people who are already here, and all of a sudden you come into a neighborhood where there's a totally different dynamic.
Well, I'm Latino, I'm from Colombia, so I found a lot of connections in the neighborhood, and I do feel like probably immigrants would feel that they have to assimilate and integrate in a way and forget about their roots and where they come from, but that have shown that it generates very bad outcomes in the progress of certain communities if you forget about your own roots. Actually reinforcing that identity is better for students, is better for youth, is better for people in terms of work and integration, to not forget about your roots and have some place that you can celebrate your own culture. And that's exactly what the Latin Quarter does.
Well, you do this in the film, but I guess one of the things you show in the film is the way this is embraced by people from the neighborhood.
Well, people from the neighborhood feel a lot of pride of being part of a Latino community. And part of that pride is because for many years they're surrounded by their Latino partners where they can eat their food, they can hear their music, they can speak their language. But in the past years, Jamaica Plain has been heavily gentrified, and a lot of people, Latinos, have gone away from Jamaica Plain. So I think the Latin Quarter is this initiative to preserve some of these values and create a hub for Latinos and non-Latinos to celebrate their culture in the city, even though they can't live in this neighborhood anymore.
And we'll take a look at this excerpt from the documentary.
How long did you live in JP?
7 years.
7 years, right? Mm-hmm. The grassroots for the past 50 years in JP is being Latino.
Yeah.
To the point that we had 112 different businesses only in this area being managed and owned by Latinos.
Okay.
Right now, this area
Yeah.
is being nominated. It's called Boston Latin Quarter at Large for promotional purpose, mapping in the city.
Okay. I didn't realize that there was an official decree by the city.
Yes. It accomplished a lot because for us Latino, it gives us a sense of belonging. Like, you need something.
Monica, what does this mean for business owners around Hyde Square?
Well, hopefully it'll bring a lot of attraction to other parts of the city and other people from the city to come into the Latin Quarter and, invest in the Latin Quarter, eat the food in Hyde Square. Or you meant Hyde Square Task Force, or you meant the business?
Well, I mean, I think it's about, getting people from other areas to come in and, and thinking of what they do in a different way. This is not just something you serve to one population. You got to share it with other people too.
Oh, absolutely. And that's exactly the purpose of it. There's there's a two-part effort there. Obviously, you want to attract newcomers to the Latin Quarter, and you want people from all over the city to experience what's to be Latino, the food, the festivals, and that will help the businesses around the Latin Quarter. But the other part of it is you have to support that transition, that the business owners, the family-owned businesses within the Latin Quarter have to be able to jump into this new generation or jump into this new business model. And how are we helping those businesses survive this newcomers and this new wave in a way that, they can stay. They don't have to sell their businesses. It won't change. And whatever is attracting to the Latin Quarter, whatever other businesses are going to be opening in the Latin Quarter, they need to be aligned with the values of the Latin Quarter.
Yeah, I'm only a second generation American, but I thought of my pre-American culture when I was very young as being second class. How does it feel when people say, no, this is not second class, this is first class, this is worth sharing and preserving? Does that make a difference with people?
Well, I do feel that preserving these cultural hubs and being open for differences within a city makes the city grow. I used to live in New York City for 5 years before Boston. And New York City experiences diversity in a way that I haven't seen anywhere else. And I've lived around. Boston, for some reason, there's very clear boundaries between all these cultural hubs in a way that don't let communities intertwine or see each other, recognize each other, and then let other people experience other people's cultures, other people's ways of living. And I think it can be very enriching. It is when you confront yourself with something that is unknown that creativity happens and development happens. So I think by the city really embracing these cultural districts and welcoming other people from other parts of the city into these hubs of culture, it's actually making the city grow and develop in a different and good way.
I think you must have grown in the process of making this documentary. How did that happen for you? I guess maybe just getting to know people in the neighborhood.
Well, I'm always very curious to know about people's stories. And I think that when you come in with a camera, I have a really good excuse to ask them questions. So I think it's that. I have a very active curiosity about people's life. And documentary film just makes me do exactly that.
We should mention that if people want to find out more about this, maybe even a chance to see it, is there any way they can get some more information?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sharing the link with whoever wants to share this documentary in their community, whoever wants to host a screening. We're after our second release during the Latino Heritage Month, we're going to share the link on social media, and people will be able just to watch it online and social media. Because for me, this film, more than a festival round type of documentary film, it was intended to be a tool for the organizations and the community to share the love that I felt in the Latin Quarter. So I just want to spread the love.
Right. Well, thank you very much for sharing it here, too. That was Monica Cohen from the Boom House. Up ahead, an event to get voters ready for Boston's next election.